I think it's fine. Cock and ball.
I use that a lot now. Colin has created a monster. It started out as cock and ball torture, and I'm sure he's not the one that came up with that.
True.
But I took the cock and ball idea and ran with it.
No, I think Colin is the originator of cock and ball torture.
I run with cock and ball all the time.
It's a great use.
It's better than running with scissors because it's perfectly safe.
True.
Why buy a comic that might cost more than a dime? Come meet the brothers who are here to waste your time.
Speaking of Colin, we are without him today. What a great way to celebrate the season 3 kickoff.
Welcome back to the Comic Bros podcast. Yeah, he's not here to be special.
I mean, he doesn't care about what show he's on. He just has to announce that he's the host.
This is true.
And he's not the host.
No, he is not the host.
We are here to clarify. Colin is not our host.
No, we are 3 equal parts, mostly.
Just 3 broke dudes sitting around a mic talking comics that we hopefully got for cheap, but probably not.
Yeah, probably not. This is episode 2 of season 3, which is terrifying.
People should know that before they click on it.
That is true. It will be in the title.
It will be.
True.
I'm one of the hosts today, Jacob, joined by my co-host, Spencer.
Hi.
And we are here with comic book news. It's a news week.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not a news week. It's a topic week.
I specifically watched the topic this morning.
You're very special.
It was a late night last night.
Yeah, we had one hell of a late night. Doing ungodly things, of course.
Well, now we have to clarify. We may have driven 2 hours one way and spent all day in a big city that we're not used to watch a concert in a very small venue that was really loud, and there was no moshing per the rules, but there was plenty of moshing, and we were definitely bodyguards for some of the moms that were surprisingly there and probably shouldn't have been.
I'm surprised that Colin wasn't there with all the moms there.
Legit am probably down like 40% hearing in my right ear right now.
Wow. So apologies if we sound like we're screaming at each other.
Because we probably are.
This is true.
I'll fix it in post and just tune us way down.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. So our topic for this week is The Kingsman. There's a 2021 spy action film directed by Matthew Vaughn from a screenplay by Vaughn and Carl Gajdisk, and a story by Vaughn. I have no idea how to pronounce that last name.
Straight off the bat, I'm going to challenge that it's a spy action film because it's only that part of the time. The other part of the time, it's like Hacksaw Ridge, almost real-ish war movie. And honestly, that's kind of the slow... My biggest complaint of this movie is that all that stuff is fine. It's well made. It looks good. But it feels like it doesn't belong in a Kingsman movie where it's a boundary-pushing comedy action movie.
That seems to be kind of the agreed-upon consensus, is that it was weird when it got announced as a prequel. So this is set around World War I and focuses on the birth of the Kingsmen.
Which I really liked.
Yes,
I enjoyed all that.
Was pretty cool. I liked the character work around the formation was all very nice, but the fact that this is mostly an original story, it's barely based off of anything from the comics, and it's maybe 50% spy movie at best, just means it was naturally not gonna be as popular as the other ones.
All the spy stuff was done really well. I enjoyed the secret organization behind the start of World War I, and the
and maybe World War II. Dude, no one watched this movie. They don't care.
I watched this movie.
I watched this movie in theaters twice.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, all the spy stuff was good. All the counter spy stuff was good. Trying to save Archduke. There was a fake out, and I thought they were going to do an alternate timeline where
Lord.
Archduke survived, but it was a fake out. They actually killed him. Life is good. Yeah.
The actual spy stuff is pretty good. The general war bits are good, but the flow of this film is bad. That was my biggest complaint, is it's
Apologies to our listeners if you can hear the sirens outside. We're recording this in my hometown of beautiful downtown Sanford, one of the highest opiate selling cities in the country.
Yes.
That is not a lie or an exaggeration. We were in the top 10 for a long time. Usually we record in Colin or Spencer's hometown where it's peaceful countryside. So
Countryside. What are we, British?
Watch your whore mouth.
So this is a 2 hour and 10-minute movie, but it feels really freaking long because of the very choppy bouncing back and forth between basically just the subplots. There are long segments of spy stuff followed by long segments of war stuff, and it doesn't feel very well structured. Sometimes it almost feels like a series of vignettes which are related, and that tied with the constant time jumps is just
I just want to be clear that each piece is well made and looks fine. And it would have been good if they stuck to one idea. But the conglomeration of all three is well, now we're going to drop the F-bomb and make dick jokes. And now we have a very serious moment where people are dying in World War I and you should feel bad. It's what?
Yeah, I think if they had toned down the goofy stuff a bit, particularly towards the end battle, which takes place atop a mountain fortress thing, it would have gone across better. It would have been more... It would have had less quote-unquote mainstream appeal because it would have been less like the other movies, but it would have felt more authentic, because when it wants to take itself seriously, I think it does it fairly well. But then when it randomly goes, and now this British, vet with a cane is making dick jokes, is really? It's a lot.
It's very choppy.
Yeah, for sure. I do think all of the casting is all very good, though.
I was just about to get into that. Shining star for the person that played Rasputin. I kept thinking
real
Radagast.
Historical figure. Very crazy, weird dude.
Radagast. It's no, not Radagast the Brown.
That was Riz Ifans.
Rasputin.
He killed it.
He was amazing. I hope to see him as Rasputin more in anything else.
I doubt that'll happen, but I would not mind.
It would be fantastic. I would feel bad because he would get typecast, but he deserves it. He did such a fantastic job.
Yeah,
that carried this movie for me.
I also really appreciated Tom Hollander playing 3 roles simultaneously. That was really fun. He was playing 3 different cousins.
Nice.
Which was where were they stationed? I don't remember.
The Russian, the German, and the British guy, right?
Something like that. They're all he's playing relatives, sometimes in the same scene.
Yeah.
And that was done particularly well. And of course, I really liked Daniel Bruhl because I do. He's just cool.
The lady playing the nanny / Polly was quite... she did a great job as well. She was the inspiration behind the old guy starting Kingsman and was often the one to bitch slap him and be like, hey, get your shit together, let's go. So that was cool to see. She had a lot of personality.
I am such a sucker for the I'm the nanny, but I'm secretly a badass trope.
Yeah.
It's so easy to see coming, but I don't really care. That's just a trope I'm into.
So you're into bondage.
Shut up, maybe.
I was also going to say that it kind of sucks for her because she seemed to do really well in this movie, but I haven't really seen her in any other thing that she's made. It's all garbage movies, basically. Yeah. So that's a big oof because she seems to deserve better.
Yeah, and as the lead performer, Ralph Fiennes, who's also an executive producer, which tracks, was extremely good, particularly just in doing some of his own stunt work. He's very well known for doing period pieces and whatnot. He's great, as always. As a leading man, he's not exactly the most charismatic man in the world. But I liked that. I think that was part of the point, is he's not really supposed to be a super charismatic dude.
Yeah, no.
I really like it's not really a spoiler, but what it equates to the overall point of the movie and what is the founding principle of the Kingsmen, aside from just, being secret spies and stuff, is the father taking up the torch from his son and wanting to, instead of being the man that he thought he should be. He wants to be the man that his son would have been if he had been alive, and I really like that. My other major complaint with this movie is that, frankly, its twist villain kind of sucks. I think it's funny about having an angry Scottish man as the leader behind this secret organization of various ethnicities and countries, but like, I get the whole Scotland being angry with England thing, but, like, holy shit, it just, maybe it's because of my lack of familiarity with the history and my lack of connection being American and mostly French. I just don't really care. It only really resulted in comedy because I went, oh, it's a dumb twist villain and he's got a funny mustache and accent.
The dumb twist seemed particularly dumb because it didn't make sense that he would be everywhere all the time. It was like, there's no way he went from being this guy to that guy to good guy to bad guy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have fit.
Did you have anyone in particular that you thought was the secret shadowy bad guy before the twist? Because I was honestly having trouble coming up with anything.
I had no idea.
Which is when I thought it was going to be something kind of dumb. Because there aren't really many seeds planted for anything.
I was hoping, if anything, I was hoping for sequel bait. As like, reveal, who the heck is that guy? Watch the sequel.
Ugh.
Like, that was all I had in my mind. And it was
there
like,
is sequel bait in the post-credits.
yeah, but it was nothing like
No.
I was thinking.
No. The only other real major complaint I think I have is just the cast is really big. Not like definitely the first Kingsman movie where it has a large cast, but most of them are very well in the background, like the other potential Kingsman trainees, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
Whereas clearly none of them are really that relevant. But the fact that the secret bad organization has like 12 members with all very high profile actors, and each one of them only gets a couple minutes of screen time, and you never really know when any of them are going to pop up next, is a lot to keep tabs on. And I think they could have if you had... The movie clearly wants to have a very, very big scope while also having a very personal story, and I think you kind of need to pick one.
That's an interesting take because most of the story revolves around the Kingsman and his crew of 2 other people.
Right.
And then his son and the villains. And the villains were, I believe, nameless for the most part.
They have names, but they mostly went by their animal titles.
Yeah. So it didn't really count at that point. So you're only following a couple of main threads, and then everybody in the background is just background. You didn't need a name with the face. It's just like, oh, that guy with the mustache or whatever. So it didn't really bother me.
I believe the vast majority of those were real historical figures as well. At least a fair few of them I did recognize.
See, all of that went over my head.
Clearly they're all caricatures, and they probably weren't involved in the secret plot organized by a Scottish man.
Right.
But a few of them I'm fairly certain are real. And then there were plenty of other characters that were just actual historical figures, like Tom Hollander he was King George, Kaiser Wilhelm, and Tsar Nicholas, which were 3 real people. And they were real cousins. So, it's a weird blending of fiction and nonfiction, whereas clearly everything's cranked up to like 15 in terms of silliness.
Right.
But you're not really sure what's real. That was just kind of weird. Overall, I did enjoy this, and I think... I enjoyed it a lot more than the second one, because the second one really went off the rails. Like, literally, it was batshit crazy.
But that was more in line with the Kingsman series, because it was just goofy spy action stuff. It was, like, crazier than Mission Impossible, and I'll give you that. It wasn't a masterpiece by any means, but it was closer to what I think of with Kingsman than this movie.
Oh, for sure. I don't know. I like historical movies. I like historical fiction is one of the things I always did a lot. I read a lot of when I was in like high school and whatnot. It just, even despite it having some serious tonal inconsistencies and choppiness issues, it feels like it's more thoughtful than The Golden Circle, which was just wacky, and like none of that was taken from the comics either. Versus the first movie, whilst it had a big world-ending plot and lady with knife legs and whatnot, I don't know why, but there's something about that movie which ends up coming across as fairly grounded and reasonable, even though it's really not at all.
Right.
Just 2 has laser lassos and like. It's just too much. It's not like it jumped the shark. It just went really, really hard. Whereas it's supposed to be a Bond spoof, obviously, but James Bond didn't get really silly overnight. It was, every movie got sillier than the previous one. Versus that one went from like early, it was like the Secret Service was like Sean Connery era, and then Golden Circle was like Pierce Brosnan. And it's like, holy shit, that's a big leap. And then this movie is kind of like Daniel Craig. Not really, but it would be the closest out of all of them.
I'd say Timothy Dalton. It's trying to be serious, but it's still kind of dumb.
I guess. I don't know. It's not going to get a sequel, even though it has very obvious sequel bait, because this movie didn't even break even. It made back its production budget, but it definitely didn't make back its marketing budget. It was also delayed a few times because of COVID. So the third primary movie, but the fourth like actual Kingsman movie is still in early production, and it will be happening because the other 2 were strong financial successes. But I hope that they learn some lessons from this one and the Golden Circle, because they might, if Kingsman 3/4 wasn't already in production, I feel like this might have killed it, just because of its, if nothing else, just its box office returns.
I mean, it also came out in 21, and that's when people were early 21, and people were still sketched out about going to the theaters. Mm-hmm. Even movie theaters were still closed at the time.
Yep.
So it's kind of not fair.
No, but
that's just the benefit of the doubt.
Right, and it got an near immediate release onto, I think it went to HBO Max first, like a few weeks after it left theaters. Matthew Vaughn said if a sequel was to be developed, he would want to see it be about the first decade of the agency, and I think that would be interesting, because you'd have your main trio from this movie, as well as the soldier whose name is escaping me that came back in place of friggin' the main lead's son. This is what happens when you have historical names. I don't remember anything.
Conrad
was the son. The soldier that he swapped out with that came back with the secret message and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yes. So he was one of the first people in the agency, and he was there right at the end of the movie. A surprisingly small role for Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think that could definitely be interesting. I really don't think that's going to happen. Overall, I enjoyed it. It just has some pretty gaping flaws. I found it to be more fun than Golden Circle. Golden Circle kind of drove me crazy with its craziness, which is stupid and counterintuitive and doesn't make sense, but it's me. What are you expecting? None of my opinions make any sense to anyone except me.
I had way more fun with Golden Circle, but...
Gay. Overall, I liked it.
It's okay.
I had fun. It was a nice time to go to the theater as well, because there were so few people there, and I was so far away from everyone else.
Yeah.
It was nice. So moving away from Les Kingsmen.
We have no TV shows or anything current to keep up with.
That is correct.
So that means, per the rules of Dime whatever network, if we don't have a concurrent topic, we get bumped up to 3 personal topics. So,
and apparently Jacob just hit the deadline for that this morning.
I did.
So please tell me.
5 hours of sleep. I finished Kingsmen, almost finished another movie that I had going, and I read a topic today.
Wowza. So.
And a bunch of YouTube.
Wow. So why don't you tell me about this thing that you read, my good sir?
I read Friend of the Devil, written by Ed Brubaker, and I believe arted... Oh, it's by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips.
Ooh.
It is the second book in the Reckless series. The lead character's name is Ethan Reckless.
Nice.
I'm dead serious. I talked about the first one probably about a year ago now. This feels very pulpy, kind kind of gumshoe, but not really. It's set in the 70s or 80s. So think like Rockford, basically, only a little less goofy. But that down on his luck, private eye kind of setting. Looking to get paid, but Ethan, reckless, only takes jobs that interest him. He lives cheap or free, so he doesn't really need money. He's okay with being poor, basically. He's got a couple of ragtag friends. This one was way better than the first one. Ethan meets a friend, and as they're sharing snuggle time in front of a movie, she says, "Oh my gosh, that's my missing sister." And so he has to track down this missing sister. And Ed Brubacher in the afterword explained that he used the Satanic Panic as an influence on this. The sister turns out to have been involved in a cult that was like started out with sex and then got really quote unquote religious, and very, very culty and killing animals and each other and stuff. So it's also kind of based off of Charles Manson or something like that. So yeah, this one was far more interesting. The pacing of the story I feel was tighter than the first book. There really isn't a slow moment that isn't character building and important to the story. So let me rephrase that. The slower moments are kept short, but they're important for character building. I got this book for $21. Cover price is $25. $20 is kind of steep. I would say like $15 to $20 is a good deal if you are working your way through the series.
I like Gumshoe.
These books are really small. They're really skinny, but they're well made. The artwork is pretty much just pencil work with some colors thrown on it. It's fairly simple, but it fits the kind of retro San Diego, California feel to it. I talked about that when I talked about the first one. They're very soft colors usually, at least when it's necessary. When it's warm outside, you know it, because it's warm colors. Things like that.
It's got the California filter.
Yeah.
Which is the diet version of the Mexico filter.
You're terrible.
I know I am.
Yeah, very enjoyable. I was surprised to find out this morning they made a fourth book and released it a couple of months ago. So
dang, broski,
wow.
You gotta buy it.
Not yet. I gotta read the third one first.
Well, yeah.
What have you done? That was my first topic.
Hey, goo-boo-boo. Do you want... So,
yes.
You know what I'm gonna do this week? You know how usually we avoid Batman like the plague?
You're gonna do all Batman.
I have mostly Batman.
Nice.
So I read Batman Reptilian, which is a 6-issue Black Label miniseries that came out last year in 2021. It is written by Garth Ennis, and this is the first time he has touched Batman as a notorious hater of superheroes. This was a highly anticipated book, and the art is done by Liam Sharp. Basically, so obviously, Black Label book, it's out of continuity, it's dark, adult, blah, 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 whatever.
Dark and gritty?
Yeah.
Batman?
Yeah, I know, right?
No.
Batman being dark and gritty, what a concept.
Whoa.
See, I want a Black Label book, which is just more Batman 66. Except they already made those, which weren't Black Label books, but they should make them adult and have lots of nudity or whatever, just for fun.
Just have Adam West dropping the F-bomb all the time.
That'd be very
He's
funny.
running around with a bomb over his head, and it has a big F on it.
That would be great.
And he's just saying it over and over and over again.
Yes.
Trying to get rid of it. That'd be so funny.
So, basically, a bunch of the high-profile villains of Gotham City, you know, Batman's bad boys, all of the bagillion bad guys in Batman's ginormous rogues gallery, all start getting knocked off one by one. They get murdered or ripped apart or paralyzed or whatever, and it all traces back to one basic location. They all went to one meeting at some point, basically, is what it's a kind of a mystery, but not really. They all ended up going to a meeting, and they were marked with pheromones. And they're basically all prey for this new creature that is in Gotham City hunting bad guys because reasons. I'm going to spoil it because I don't really care, and you're probably not going to read it anyways. Basically, it turns out that Croc, because he doesn't really know his own backstory that well, and some parts of his life may or may not be lies, is because of his species of whatever he is, he's basically part alien. So, at some point in the past, a meteor came to Earth and crash landed in a swamp or something along those lines, and a bunch of people died and disappeared and got weird sicknesses around then. Died. And then there were descendants of the people that were near them that are basically part alien. And then Croc is descended from that, which means that Croc is... What's the term?
Xenophobe.
No.
Xeno...
No, it's not what you're thinking.
Xena the warrior princess.
I'm gonna kill you. Come on.
Zin the nicotine packets that everybody's sucking on instead of a dick.
No.
Oh. Xylopheromone?
There we go.
Nailed it.
No. Croc is a hermaphrodite. So he's
horny as fuck.
No.
Oh.
It means he is starting to have female biology.
Oh.
So it turns out that Croc gave birth to this weird monstrosity, which is mostly alien and part human.
Wait.
It's even more fucked up than he is.
Does that mean he can bone himself?
Something along those lines. It's
Yeah.
very weird and very gross. So he's like a clownfish, or like a bunch of different types of reptiles can do that as well. So he, unbeknownst to himself, his body basically gives birth to this weird creature. It's really disgusting.
Xenomorphic was what I was trying to think of. Nailed it.
Honestly, pretty close. And that is the thing which has been killing everyone because Croc accidentally marked them with his pheromones or something like that. So the creature thinks that all of the villains are its mother or like whatever. It's weird. And then it wants to eat Croc, and then it wants to get fucked by Croc because it needs to reproduce to continue this. It's disturbing and really weird.
Alligator incest.
Dude, you have no idea. It was very disturbing to read. So the story is kind of interesting, and I do find all of the really weird, gross shit I just listed off to be very interesting in concept, and some of the art does make very good examples of that. But honestly, I don't know why Garth Ennis took this job. Like,
The execution was dog shit?
Shut up. Garth Ennis is notorious for hating superheroes, and this is the first time he's written Batman himself. And I'm not sure whether this was a story someone else came up with, or if he just wanted to run with this. I don't understand why.
Punisher held a gun to his head and said, "You're gonna write Batman."
That's what it feels like. It is a weird concept that doesn't really feel very Garth Ennis-y, aside from having like shock value to it. There's the mildest lampshading of like government organizations doing tests on things and whatnot, and that's bad, but like that's it. Like that's about how much effort went into that plot line. Batman's entirely out of character this entire book. I need to read it again because there's a lot of dialogue that has lots of implications, but on surface level, Batman's just really weird. Alfred's really weird. Their relationship is strange. It just the plot itself is basic as hell. It's just a brief mystery followed by what is it's basically a kaiju v Batman battle. Like, it's weird. And the art is very 50-50. Think some of the more interesting parts of Dave McKean mixed with Lee Bermejo, but not good.
Ooh.
Some of it's really interesting. Some of the panels are really cool to look at, but humans are caricatured so bad and so much that some panels people legitimately they look like caricatures, like you'd get them at like a fair. They're just it's crazy, and for such a grotesque and gross book, I get humans are weird and funny looking, but it's not the same type of weird and funny looking tone to it. It's not like humans are horrific little goblin monsters, which we are, but like it's goofy.
So what you're saying is you're about to have a kid? This is your announcement?
No.
Oh.
This book was weird. I bought it for $25 at Jetpack. A deep sale, maybe. It's
How
worth
deep?
like $15. It's worth a peruse, if nothing else. Some of the art is really cool. Some of it is very grotesque. The villains are all done really cool, but like normal people they look like absolute ass. And Batman is weird and makes jokes and is just very out of character. And I'm not sure what's the meta point here, Garth. What are you trying to say here? I don't understand what the actual themes are. Like really, I don't. Which coming from Mr. Heady Theme Man over here is bad. One of my
Coming from you, that's bad. That makes me think it's made for me, where there is no theme. There is no point.
There so clearly is, though. I just can't tell what they are. I don't think Garth had it figured out before he started writing.
I think he's messing with you. He's lampshading. There's a bigger meaning, but there isn't.
Then why the fuck would he take a Batman gig? He hates doing superheroes.
That's why. It's his revenge on nerds.
It's fucking retarded. That's that. Weird book. What else have you been doing?
I read Justice League Dark, Volume 1. This is the one that came out in 2018, I believe.
Oh, this is the one that's got my boy, Swamp Thing.
Not 2011's run. Yeah, 2018, 2019. That run.
Nice.
So, weird shit is happening with magic. We open up with Zatanna, or Zatanna, or Zatanna, my preferred way of saying it.
Wow, aren't you special?
Just doing a magic show, and a creature happens, and she can't control it, and Wonder Woman shows up and kills it and says, hey, by the way, weird shit's happening with magic. And Zatanna says, alright, I'm going to stop using it, because apparently it's not working right. So they go on a quest to try to fix magic. They enlist Bobo, the detective chimp, John Constantine, and Swamp Thing also join the crew. And an interesting choice, Man-Bat is civil now. And
I remember I read the book that came before this.
Is a good guy and is just trying to help out. And I thought that was wicked cool. He uses his Man-Bat formula to become a more violent Man-Bat thing to kick bad guys' asses, but he's still a good guy, and he's helping the good guys out, and that's wicked cool.
Every Batman villain is getting redeemed before Batman dies. I swear to God, they're gonna do it.
Cool.
Permanently. Not just these temporary little things. They're gonna do all of them.
It definitely felt like I jumped into the middle of something, because there's a lot of focus on the Tree of Wonder in Salem, Mass, and I had no idea what that was all about, but Swamp Thing is there talking to it, and life is good, except that magic is not okay. We have an important flashback to when Wonder Woman was a kid and watches the witches, a whole bunch of witches summon Hecate. Hecate? Hecate. The witch.
Hecate, I think.
I thought it was Hecate.
Hecate.
But whatever. I was being honest that time. And that is a very important plot point later, because the villain is in the first 3 issues is the Upside Down Man, and he's just wrecking everybody because he's got better magic than they do, except for Wonder Woman, who has this Hecate stamp on her forehead, and they defeat the Upside Down Man. And then, my biggest complaint about this book, that was issues 1 through 3. We get to issue 4, and it's missing. We have a previously on Justice League Dark and Wonder Woman.
What the hell?
Yeah. They deal with the Hecate tattoo it's not really a tattoo, it's just a magic stamp on her forehead and just get it out of her for no reason, as far as I could tell. Like, super duper important thing, and they just cut issue 4 out of this book.
That's really weird.
So then issue 5 through 7, Bobo the Chimp is drunk and upset because his good buddy Jim Rook, the Nightmaster, died in Dark Knight's Metal. And so because he died, he left Bobo the sword, making him Nightmaster.
Oh dear, not the monkey.
The magic sword is the key to an in-between magic world or something. I don't really know. But Bobo the Chimp was so drunk and insecure, I guess is a good word, that he messed up this magic in-between world. So his good buddy, the Blue Devil, right?
I think so.
Blue Devil goes there and is basically their king in this cool fantasy land. It almost feels like Amazing Fantasy was supposed to be, but wasn't. Kind of like that setting, that world. If that reference is too much, maybe Army of Darkness kind of weird setting, weird fantasy setting.
Huh.
So Blue Devil's trying to fix that. Constantine and Swamp Thing are still fighting Dr. Fate, who isn't Dr. Fate, but kind of is. That's left over from the first 3 issues. There's a lot happening. It's all very interesting. I still kind of feel like I'm missing something, especially issue number 4, DC.
There's got to be some reason for that.
I have no idea. My best guess is that it crossed over with the current Wonder Woman timeline.
Maybe.
So they didn't want to include 2 issues of Wonder Woman and Justice League Dark number 4. But this is a 6-issue trade paperback. You couldn't make it a 9-issue?
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, compared to the next couple volumes of this run, this paperback is small, comparatively. Very upsetting.
Weird.
But I'm really enjoying the weird take on Justice League, the magical Justice League.
Oh my gosh, it's magic.
It's really cool. It's an interesting team up. You don't see these characters work together, like ever, even in crises. Cover price is $17. I got it for $7.
Wow.
Which is a pretty good deal.
That's a steal.
Bull Moose, baby.
I'm assuming it's used then.
Pre-owned.
Pre-owned.
But
What is this, GameStop? Pre-owned.
You can't tell. It was perfect.
Nice.
Spoiler, I got the next volume at $7 too.
Wow. Screw you, dude. That's not fair.
That's why I made Dime Comic Bros, because we're supposed to be pinching our dimes, but no, I gotta buy everything cover price. What'd you do?
Speaking of Justice League.
Ooh. You read Justice League Batman?
No.
Oh.
I read Justice League Last Ride. It is a 7-issue miniseries from 2021, written by Chip Zdarsky, with pencils by Miguel Mendoza. Sorry, I'm horrible with names. It is an out-of-continuity story, which is set in a somewhere of a 50-50 universe between current DC and, like, DCAU, roughly. It has a similar lineup that includes Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, 2 Green Lanterns.
Which ones? Jon Stewart?
Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan.
Okay.
Martian Manhunter, The Flash. And there's some other characters that are in the issue, but they're not really relevant. So there's this mysterious... I mean, it's a mystery for about 1 issue. There's this mysterious trauma in the group's past. They were temporarily disbanded. There was... effectively, they had a battle. They defeated Darkseid. But Batman sort of put Martian Manhunter in the position where he would have to kill himself. Martian Manhunter willingly did it, and Batman didn't want him to do it, but he did it anyways, because he's a team player and a hero and whatnot, and Batman feels immense guilt over it, and Superman is fucking pissed with Batman. He's basically just calling him a murderer left and right. But they have to temporarily rejoin because they have to protect Lobo from being murdered, because Lobo has been captured and is going on trial for all of the Lobo shit he's been up to. But because most of the galaxy just wants to kill him, they are required to protect him. Blah, blah. There's many twists and turns. I liked the concept. I liked the universe. I enjoyed a lot of the character interactions.
But the execution was dog shit.
No, stop that. Most of the execution was actually pretty good.
Wow.
The one thing that's kind of a big not great is the art. It's fine. It's probably pushing it. Some of it's okay and some of it's pretty bad. Some of the character designs are really cool for sure. But it's weird. There is a Green Lantern Darkseid for a couple of minutes who looks freaking awesome. At one point, Hal Jordan doesn't need a ring to use the force of will, and he constructs a whole army of constructed like people, but like they're all other superheroes without a ring, which is really cool.
That Green Lantern Darkseid was what you showed me yesterday, right? On Twitter?
No, that was Swamp Thing.
Oh, that's right.
The biggest thing with the art is mostly that the proportions and faces are really inconsistent, just all over the place.
That was something I meant to talk about. Zatanna was really weird in Justice League Dark. She looked very, very different, like had a different outfit, and kind of took the back seat because she was like, well, magic is useless, I'm not going to do anything, and seemed like a pretty flat character. She didn't talk much, she didn't do much, so that was quite odd. That was
Whack.
weird. Very weird.
On the whole, I feel like this could have used a few more issues. The universe is pretty interesting. The League reforms after defeating Darkseid again. And they become, instead of the Justice League or the Justice League of America or the Justice League International, which is what they are right now in mainstream comics, they are the Justice League Universal.
I was hoping for intergalactic.
I was thinking it would be either Unlimited or Universal, but it's Universal.
They've already done Unlimited.
I know. It is basically Justice League show type beat, you know? It's mostly that. Superman's a little weird. He's a bit more actively aggressive with Batman than I would expect, but it's not exactly out of character. It's just a little weird. But
It's just left over from Injustice.
No. I'm kind of disappointed because of Chip Zdarsky. I figured he would have had like more to it. It's a pretty simple story. It's pretty short, and it has, you know, the big heroes are for hope and everybody type stuff, which is all good. It feels like Chip Zdarsky writing like a Justice League book would be potentially the last, quote unquote, last ride of the Justice League. You'd think would be something a little bit more grand. Not that it doesn't have the scale, but it doesn't feel grandiose, which is kind of weird. It was $17 cover price. I would recommend buying it for that. Good book. Nothing spectacular, but it was pretty cool. There's a handful of really interesting moments.
How many issues is in it?
7.
All right, that's a decent deal.
Yeah, not bad. What else have you been doing?
I have a chunky one, and I saved the best for last.
Oh, dear.
No, this is good. You're about to cream yourself. I read Hawkeye, the saga of Barton and Bishop. Written by Matt Fraction and David Aha.
Nice.
So, this includes Young Avengers Presents number 6 for no good reason, and then Hawkeye, the 2012 run, so issues 1 through 22, and the annual number 1.
Heckin' yeah, dude.
So this is what heavily inspired the Hawkeye TV show, because this run is so well done. If you are anywhere near the comics world, you have seen this run commercialized.
Yes.
Somewhere. Somehow, you've seen a picture of it, a cover, something. It is just so good. The art's... I'll get the Young Avengers thing out of the way. It was supposed to be like a little prequel showing Kate Bishop doing bow and arrow stuff, and it didn't really add anything. It only turned me off from Young Avengers stuff because it felt like a teenage drama. Yuck. And then we get into the Hawkeye run, and looks pretty cartoony, I guess.
Love it.
And yeah, it's very good. It's written with such a great attitude. It feels like people are caricatured in the writing. So the Russian jogsuit mob says bro all the time,
Bro?
needlessly. And
Bro.
It's so funny. It's just a characterization, but that's just one of many examples that happens in this run. We get Hawkeye's dog, Lucky or Arrow, depending on who's possessing him at the time. That's a little weird, but the poor puppy loses an eye, but helps Hawkeye fight the Russian jogsuit mob, so it sort of becomes his dog. Pretty much this whole run is about Hawkeye fending off the mob from buying his apartment building. The mob is chasing out families from the building because they want the whole building for their nefarious reasons of private property. Don't ask Spencer about his thoughts on that.
Yeah, don't ask me my opinions on landlords. They break terms of service for YouTube and everything else.
He's just salty that my car got towed in
Dude,
the
I
middle
was
of the
salty
city
about
last
this
night.
shit well before that. Now you're on my side, motherfucker.
So Barton fends off the mob, and he says, you can have the whole block, but not my building. Piss off. So he's fending them off a lot, and it pisses off a bunch of supervillains. So they start coming after him. When I was flicking through the book, trying to figure out if I wanted to buy it, I saw many variations of artwork. And I was like, ew, this looks like it got passed around. I don't know if I want to read this. But no. Do not turn off, because it's extremely intentional as far as I can tell. A lot of the artwork style changes are because that issue is being told from a different perspective. So
Perspective change?
we have a couple from the villain's point of view. We have one from the dog's point of view. We have several from Kate's point of view, several from Clint's point of view. All so good. There are so many issues that play with the comic book layout, I guess. So, for example, the dog issue. Every picture is from down low, as if you're looking at the world from his height. And they have a whole page of like a stairwell and just little pictures or icons over the different residents' doors, and you get an idea of who the people are, how many people are in there, and some of their hobbies or what they do for work, or usually things that the dog smells walking by the door, and it's only told in little icons. Or motion is explained with little paw prints and blood, or little commonplace like exit signs or something with arrows. It's difficult to explain without showing it, but it's so cool how many times this run changes the common comic book layout. It's not just your basic 4 panels or 9 panels or whatever. It's so unique. It was so cool to look at. Probably the biggest speed bump I had. There's, I want to say, like 7 issues that get stuck in the same time loop. It reminded me of watching that awful 2009 movie Vantage Point.
Ooh.
Where the story grows a little bit depending on whose point of view you're watching the story happen from.
Yeah.
I watched that movie a couple of times with a bunch of different people. Some people really like it. Some people got bored because they were watching the same movie 9 times. I get what they were going for. It's a cool idea, but the 7th, 8th, and 9th time gets a little boring.
Fair.
Sorry. So that's a third of the issues in this run. So while it was still doing its weird comic book layout most of the time, it was just enough to keep me reading. Oh, that was another good issue. Hawkeye loses his hearing, and all of the word bubbles are just blank white. And every once in a while, it's intercut with some small lines of dialogue, and that's him reading their lips. Or it has his brother who shows up signing to him, and it feels like you're reading just a basic ass sign language textbook instead of the actual character making the motions. It's wicked cool. Very, very good storytelling. The run ends with a large cast of supervillains. Think Spectre or the group of bad guys in the Kingsmen on top of the mountain or whatever. Just the secret organization of villains saying, we should all kill Hawkeye. And they're like, yep, that's a great idea. And that's the end. We only saw this group one other time in this run, and nothing really happened that wasn't already happening. So it felt like a weird inclusion. It felt like a corporate inclusion to lead somewhere, but I honestly have no idea where to go to try to follow up on that. It just felt very, very, very out of place. Cover price is $45. That is how much I spent when I bought it at Jetpack. I would say it's worth it. This is a fantastic addition to any bookshelf.
Hot.
Very good run.
Arrow go whoosh.
What is your last talking point? It must feel so nice to scratch 3 things off your list at a time.
You have no idea.
Instead of 1 or 2.
I read Tales from the DC Dark Multiverse 2.
Well,
So it's issues 5 through 10 of the run.
I believe you have reviewed the first one, though.
Yes, I did.
On here?
Yes, I did. I don't remember how long ago it was, but I did.
All right.
Definitely did. In fact, as with the previous version, some are good, some are bad. This is about the same. It's if you average out all of my scores, it's a teensy bit lower than the previous one.
Oof.
There are 5 one-shots. They all came out in 2020. They all have different creative teams. So there is So basically, all of these are stories from the upside down or the bottom of the table of the DC universe. It's all of the dark alternate realities and stuff.
Sir, I think you mean the underside of the map.
Something like that. So this book includes the bad version of Hush, Flashpoint, War of the Gods, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Metal.
Didn't they already do Crisis on Infinite Earths in the last one?
No. So Hush is easily the best one in the book, and it's the first one. It's basically what if... See, this is the thing with these stories, is always trying to figure out where the diverting timeline started, and it's always kind of tricky. This one is basically what if Tommy Elliott tried to have his parents murdered and then accidentally had the Waynes murdered.
It's
and then
tough because they take a 12-issue story and only make 1 issue.
And that's the biggest failing on all of these stories, is that they have to do so much legwork, and you have to be familiar with the original version of the story for it to make any sense.
And they include an original issue from the storyline in the back of the book, but that's not enough when you're doing the whole freaking 12-issue story.
Yeah. So Hush is really cool. Basically, Bruce Wayne is insane and lives in the underbelly of Arkham Asylum. He goes around killing people. There's a bunch of political stuff going on with all of the characters we know and love. So Tim Drake, Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, etc. the League of Shadows or Assassins, I never remember which one's which, is involved. We don't get a lot of the actual like plot. It's mostly just getting us familiar with the world. Batman's suit is super fucking cool. He's like a ghost demon that lives in Arkham Asylum, and it's weird. Very good execution. Flashpoint is basically what if Reverse Flash was in the exact same place that Flash was when Flashpoint happened. So in the Flashpoint story, when Flash tries to get his powers again with the help of Thomas Wayne, what if instead of him getting his powers, Reverse Flash just appeared and Barry Allen disappeared? It's weird. But basically, what if Reverse Flash had an entire crazy world to play with his own insane power set? It's interesting. It's not amazing. When Thomas Wayne is basically begging him to go back in time and make it so Thomas and Martha die, but Bruce gets to live, Reverse Flash basically says, no, fuck you, I want you to suffer. It's very weird. He becomes like the president of the United States. There's a war with the New Gods, but the New Gods are led by Barda, who is basically Darkseid. It's super weird. War of the Gods is a really bad story in its original version, and it's also bad here. It just, what if Wonder Woman went crazy with the power of this pantheon and crap? I didn't like it. I really don't like this version. Crisis on Infinite Earths isn't Crisis on Infinite Earths. They say it is, but it's not. It's a parallel of an event further down the timeline after the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, the actual event of which I do not remember the name. But basically, what if instead of Earth 2, basically the setup for this story is in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, certain things happen with Earth 1 and Earth 2. What if they switch places is what this story basically does. So instead of this being primarily the Justice League, it's primarily the Justice Society. It's not horrid, but it's really horrible execution. The costumes are kind of cool, and the art's not bad, but it has nothing to really do with Crisis. And it's mostly having to do with Golden Age characters I'm not very familiar with, so I can't even say if they're written well or in line with their original characterization. And then another very good story in this one is Metal. Basically, what if the Metal event took place and did the exact same thing, but Batman was taken over by Barbados? Pretty much. So the story focuses on Duke Thomas, the Signal, Batman's most recent adoptee, basically becoming the last Batman, like ever. It's another post-apocalyptic, one of Batman's children is going to become Batman, but I quite liked it because Duke Thomas has been kind of shoved under the rug since Scott Snyder stopped writing. He is the one who introduced the character, and he kind of just gets left by the wayside. This event involves a dragon version of the Justice League who has to be fought, but they're not really dragons, but they're kind of dragons. They all get fought by the power of metal with Duke Thomas, Nightwing, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Bobo, and Red Tornado. It's super weird. I liked it. The end note is nice, and and then Tempest Fugonaut, who is he's just the Watcher. He's just a Watcher ripoff, who's like the framing device of these stories, fucking dies because Duke Thomas says, so you can see everything, and you've seen all of these worlds I've had to run through and try to save and ultimately fail, and you've done nothing. Fuck you, and then he dies. On the whole, most of these stories are criminally flawed in a way that I think is not... Marvel has a much better handle on their what-if stories because they take a very central point of the story and go, what if Peggy Carter became Captain America? It's real. The only thing that's different to start off is that Peggy Carter went in the tube and now she's Captain America. And then everything else after that is different versus the Dark Multiverse stories. One, focus on being extremely edgy, almost entirely to their detriment. And two, most of them involve a lot of events being different before the quote-unquote key event, and it's kind of incoherent for most of them. All of these are 50-50. Some of them are pretty good, and a lot of them are really bad. It was like $30 for the paperback. get the specific issues that are good, which is, I think, the same thing I said about the last one. And like Jacob said, they also include one issue of the original story arc in the back of the book for all of these stories, and most of them are pointless because it's out of context and not the whole story. If they had removed those and they just combined these into one book, I would have been at least slightly less pissy, but it feels like they really milked it. They took a year break between doing the 2 sets of 5, but there's no real improvement here. All the creative teams are different for each story, just like last time. They're all really incoherent, and some of them are good. And some of them are disgustingly bad.
Sweet.
Yeah, disappointing. But my expectations were pretty low, so I'm glad that there were 2 that I really liked and 1 that was like fine. Last time I think it was 3 that I really liked and 2 that were bad. So
I meant to go back to the Blackest Night one of the first volume after reading the actual Blackest Night saga, because I didn't know anything about that story, and then I read the Dark Knight's version of it, and I was like, what? I don't get it.
that was one of the ones that I did like. That one was pretty cool. Yeah.
Also, I can milk a whole review out of one issue. Winner.
Very true. So that is the end of this show. Thank you for listening, and a big thank you to our partners over at Jetpack Comics and Games in downtown Rochester, New Hampshire, over at the Megastore. Go give them a visit. Let them know that we sent you for all of your gaming, comic, and other geeky nerd stuff, cards and D&D and whatever you nerds.
To boost our numbers, us, the 3 hosts, should tell Jetpack that we sent us to them so that they can be like, hey, our partnership is actually doing good. When in reality, it's just us sending ourselves to the store, which
Yeah.
we already go anyway.
This is true.
Big brain. Right
Very
here.
big brain. I recently picked up the Jetpack variant cover for Do a Powerbomb issue 1,
I've
which
been
I'm very
thinking about
excited.
it.
I'm very excited to read that by Daniel Warren Johnson. Imagine being like a early 20-something comic book store employee, and one of your favorite artists puts your face on one of their covers
A very
they've met-
popular artist, too.
Yeah, because they've met you. That's sick as hell. I look forward to reading it, even though I know nothing about wrestling and I don't really like it.
Yep.
I like Daniel Warren Johnson, so I'm gonna check it out.
I think it's more than like Daniel Warren Johnson. I
Boo.
think it's kind of a man crush.
Shut up. Maybe. Also, a big thank you to our patron, Jeff Lorenz, over at patreon.com/dimecomicbros. If you would like to financially support the show, it's greatly appreciated. We have a bunch of different tiers with different levels of rewards, including getting your name shouted out every episode. You can get a sketch done by Colin, stickers, bookmarks, which are coming very soon. The design is finished. They are just getting sent off to be published very shortly.
I think you mean printed.
Print. Books.
We publish our bookmarks.
We do.
After copywriting them.
Yes. As well as early access to all of our podcast episodes, typically on Wednesday before the official launch on Fridays, as well as the exclusive podcast Dime Comic Bros Happy Hour, where whoever is currently doing the episode that week just kind of sit around, have a drink, relax, talk about usually non-nerd related things, and kind of just shoot the shit. As well as just random clips and segments from this show, as well as Dime Gaming Bros, our other podcast, which is just Jacob and I talking about video games and stuff.
Huh?
Video games.
Ah, yeah, big games. I love big games.
Sometimes
I spend a lot of quarters on video games.
True. Sometimes we remove segments or clips or random tangents from the episodes just because they don't really make sense, and we throw them up on Patreon.
Sometimes we remove the gunshots happening outside my window.
Dude, how many times have there been sirens this episode? This is bad.
This is why we don't record at my house.
This is true, but sometimes we have to. Next week, we should have all 3 co-hosts, our even 1/3 of the pie apiece co-hosts. We'll be going over the news and probably ragging on Colin some more when he's actually here to defend himself. And by defend himself, I mean make baby noises at us.
Honestly, we've been really nice to him this episode.
We're usually pretty nice to him. What are you talking about?
We did not set aside a time to just rag on him this episode.
I
because he's not here.
suppose.
Now, I've been doing it in the group chat while you were doing the end credits, but those aren't published on our show.
This is true. We should publish the entirety of our
I
group
don't
chat.
think so. I think we would be shut down faster than...
I am run-on sentence man. Beat the dog with a stick.
I'll take you out of context and just have beat the dog with a stick.
Please do.